Welcome everybody. I'm Andrea Miller and I'm a registered dietitian here at Community Hospitals and Wellness Centers in Bryan. And today I have a special sous chef with me for our Baba What episode. I have Dr. Hanan Bazzi from the Women's Health Clinic here at Community Hospitals and Wellness Centers. So she actually has a couple recipes for us that you grew up with.
That's right. So yeah, Lebanese, pretty traditional Lebanese dishes. That's right.
We're going to be preparing baba ganoush. So we called it Baba What today because every time somebody asks me what we're doing for Live It and I tell them, they still don't know. So tell me again what that's made of. So I'll let you share. What is baba ganoush made out of?
So I feel like a lot of people know what hummus is. So you could think of it as their like kind of cousin. So it's made out of eggplant instead of chickpeas. It's very similar to the hummus, but instead of chickpeas, it's made out of eggplant. But you do the tahini and the garlic and the lemon juice and things like that. So, I prefer it over hummus personally. But yeah, you can eat it, as an appetizer or like as a side dish to any. Pretty much it goes with a lot of things. It's just a really yummy, creamy kind of texture, very healthy.
Very delicious. Yeah. And then the other dish we're going to be doing is tabbouleh, which is another one that a lot of people may not be familiar with, but I've actually gotten a couple of requests from people that may or may not be in the room that we actually do a tabbouleh recipe.
Cool.
So, and we're going to talk about different ways that you can prepare that today as well. So there are several different methods, and depending on your own taste, but we're going to find out the real Lebanese way to make tabbouleh today. So we're going to get started right away with our baba ganoush.
Okay.
So when you start with baba ganoush, you're going to have an eggplant. Generally, you're going to need a couple eggplants to get started. So you said your mother-in-law has a special method of getting the eggplant ready. You wash it, obviously, and dry it.
That's right. And then you cut this top portion off, and then using a knife, we would slit it from top to bottom, about halfway through the eggplant. We don't have to wrap it with aluminum foil or anything like that. You just put it on a pan, preheat the oven to 450, make sure it's nice and heated, and then you just put the eggplants on the tray and put it for about 30 minutes. The goal really is to make sure, kind of like when you make mashed potatoes or like mashed sweet potatoes, you want this to be nice and soft to be able to mush it.
It should look like really wrinkly and collapsed when it's done this.
So some people might grill this and to have that smoked taste, but it's easier if you don't want to burn it and things. It's much easier to just put it in the oven for the 30 minutes.
I will tell you, I did try to do this on my gas range at home, and it was a mess. The skin was burning.
It tends to burn before it's before it's ready.
It didn't get soft enough. I ended up having to put it in the microwave to get the skin soft enough, which was kind of a rookie move, but it ended up working out.
Yeah, so that's good.
So anyway, then you have to peel it, and actually you said one of the first steps that you do is smashing the garlic, and you brought a special tool that you use to smash your garlic.
I'm not quite sure if I didn't bring this, how were you planning on doing the garlic?
I was just going to chop, I was going to chop it, and then
you'll get actual pieces. This way it gets really creamy, because the last thing you want is to taste the pieces of garlic in a yummy dish. So this is like very, you can buy it in any probably Middle Eastern place. It's probably not expensive at all. But while the eggplant is roasting in the oven, then you can prepare other stuff. We typically say 1 clove of garlic for each eggplant, so it's kind of an easy way to remember. So we would, do we have a smaller knife, or is this what we're going to use?
This is the only one.
Wow. Okay, so if I chop my finger off, we know. So we would peel the clove, which, this one is just really difficult to do. So here we go. Or we can do what she just did. And then, so one way to, when you're trying to mash this so that it doesn't like fly away, we would put some salt in it to kind of make it stick in the thing. And then we would make it nice and creamy. basically how we do anything that has garlic in it because it makes it nice and makes it basically a nice cream. My daughters typically love to do this for me, which is really nice. And so it would be like a nice consistency instead of like pieces.
Yep.
It's more like a creamy kind of texture. And you know, sometimes we can put like the lemon juice on top of this because it gets the garlic flavor in it, and it soaks that all up.
Yeah.
I see that you're starting to
starting
peel
to
the
peel
eggplant.
the eggplant, which is a messy
This one
job.
seems a little bit difficult because of the way
Yeah.
it was cooked. And you could totally do it with a knife too, you know, if need be.
Yep.
You want me to do these too?
Sure.
All right.
If you'd like.
Yeah, sure.
This is your show today.
All right, sounds good.
Yep, so I'm just working on taking off the skin. And now when you make this, traditionally you do not use a food processor.
That is correct.
You use
You can mash
forks
it with.
that.
Yep.
Okay.
You can just mash it with this, or you can use I mean, it's not right or wrong. It's just
Yep.
preference.
When I made this at home, because I could not get mine soft enough, I did use a food processor. Like this part right here probably looks like it's going to be too, which we could even cut off.
You can think of it as like making mashed potatoes. You know, I'm sure some people like to do it by hand, mash it up, and others want to do it in the food processor. It also depends how creamy you want it, and it doesn't have to be super creamy like a hummus consistency, and that's that's fine.
So there's one.
Which is very poorly peeled, I see here. So there shouldn't be any skin left on it before you know, otherwise it might be a little bitter. So, and you know, if we can't do both, that's fine. But. So basically this is no black on it.
Okay.
This is a disaster. Oh goodness. Okay.
All right. So does that go right into a bowl?
Yeah.
Then? Okay.
Yeah.
So we can use either one.
All right.
And there's a lot of. This is going to be hard to get all of the.
This is also not as, you know, because not all of it is soft. So, but you can use. And typically, we would, if there's a lot of seeds, we typically remove those as well.
Okay.
And it seems like this eggplant has quite a few seeds because you don't necessarily want it with seeds, you know.
Do you usually use this type of eggplant, or do you use like the longer, skinnier?
You know, that one is good. You know, the more pulp, the more quantity you'll get. But definitely removing the seeds will probably have been a little bit easy, you know, yummier without the seeds. But it's okay.
I grow. Some people call them Japanese eggplants in my garden, and they're. I feel like they have a little bit less of the seeds in them.
Definitely don't want the seeds. Yep. So we put the garlic. Do we have the lemon juice?
Yep, we can.
You're fine. You can finish that.
All right.
Let's do this.
Yep.
Alrighty.
And do you use about 2 lemons?
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of it is to taste. So you know. Some people like it a little bit more sour, others don't. I feel like the garlic might be a little bit more because our eggplants were smaller and we also have to cut some of it off.
Yep.
So, excuse the seeds. It's not supposed to be here, but all right. How are we going to juice this?
Just squeezing it.
By hand. So there's going to be seeds in this too. Not supposed to happen. But it's all
We can
good.
scoop them out.
No one is going to eat this, right?
No.
I wouldn't recommend it. Okay, so we have some lemon seeds here. Removing.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Lots of them right here. Okay.
All right.
put
Well, I got
that.
most of it off. There's probably still a couple little.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's okay. We just won't. It's just for demonstrations. Okay, so yeah, you mash it. You want it kind of like a puree consistency, kind of like baby food. And we put the lemon, which, you know, I only put half, but typically I think a full lemon would be a good idea. Now, regarding the tahini, you know, you can put more or less depending on, I typically like to look at the color of the baba ganoush. You know, if you want it with less calories, then you would put less tahini. You know, it is a healthy fat, so you know, it's still healthy. But
the recipe I have is 1/3 of a cup, but you know, you can always adjust per your taste. So I'll let you show me how much you add.
Is this stirred? Because otherwise you'll have the oil on the top. So you don't. You have to stir it before.
I think that was probably refrigerated, so the oil probably you know, stayed together a little bit more.
Yeah.
So that's probably a couple tablespoons in there. And you use salt when you mash the garlic. So we have some salt in there. Would you add any extra salt, or is it just kind of like a per taste?
Per taste.
Okay.
Typically I do, because the garlic is just like a little pinch of garlic, but absolutely per taste. It's always better to add than have too much salt, and then, you know.
Right. Get these out.
And you know, some restaurants actually put like a tablespoon of yogurt with like with each eggplant, and the reason is more cosmetic, so that the color is a little bit lighter, more white. But typically at home, we don't usually put yogurt in it because it lasts longer without the yogurt. But that's more just for color. Some people, like let's say if they have a reason as to they can't have tahini at all, you know, you could potentially do it without tahini. It's not that good though without it, but
I think the tahini, I mean, I know people make hummus without tahini, and I think it needs the tahini.
It smells really
like
good
the
now.
nutty flavor that it adds.
Absolutely, yeah. So we just make sure that there's no chunks or anything like that, and you know, obviously
that looks great.
No skin or anything on it, but it would look something like this. And I would say this color is pretty good, you know. You don't want to put too much tahini, but I think this is a pretty typical color for it. It looks pretty good.
And now in the recipe it says that cayenne pepper is optional, but you said you never add the cayenne.
Yeah, typically no. It's not like a spicy, you know, thing, but you know, absolutely if you want to. And then you would put it in like a nice long plate, and you can put, you know, some diced tomatoes just for decorating.
Do you use olive oil in it?
After you put it in a plate, so you don't mix it up with it.
You just drizzle it right on top.
Exactly. So once it's put, you know, you decorate it with some diced tomatoes, maybe some parsley in the middle, and then some.
Do you ever use smoked paprika? That was another.
For decoration, pretty much, but nothing mixed in. This is the actual mixture. Nothing mixed into it. Yep.
All right. Well, there's our baba ganoush.
Yeah.
So now we all know what baba ganoush is, so we don't have to say baba what.
That's right.
Anymore.
And you know, if this seems too hard, any Mediterranean or Lebanese place in Toledo or Dearborn, Michigan has this. It's very common, so you can also enjoy it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get started with our tabbouleh. The first ingredient that you'll see in the tabbouleh is something called bulgur, and you were calling it something different. What did you call
cracked
it?
wheat.
Okay.
But you know, I mean, that's what it is.
Right, it's cracked wheat.
It's cracked wheat, but the Arabic word for it is bulgur.
Okay.
What you just called it in the American way.
Okay. Yeah, so it's basically a whole wheat berry, so it's a whole grain, and it's just cracked. And, you know, when I was researching how to prepare this, there were a lot of different suggestions on how to prepare the bulgur. And it ranged from soaking in cold water to soaking in boiling water. And you had some interesting ideas for how to soak. So you said cold water, always cold water.
That's right. So first of all, the cracked wheat, when you go to somewhere to buy it, there are multiple grades, if you may. So there's like you want to get the super finest one that you can find. So I feel like this is even a little bit bigger than what I'm used to. It should be the finest, because it shouldn't crunch in the tabbouleh, and it should be the finest that they have, because it goes from like fine to coarse, coarser, you know. And then to prepare it, you could absolutely put it in warm water, depending on how much time or not time you have, because as you're chopping the vegetables, you can soak it in warm water. Basically, the goal is for it to be not crunchy. Another way that some people do it, like my mother-in-law, would soak it in lemon juice, and it just gives it a better taste to it, instead of just being with water. But yeah.
And the other, so with the boiling water, if you did choose to soak it in like hot or boiling water, you just want to make sure it's cool by the time you mix it with the vegetables, because you don't want to be, it's a cold salad.
It's going to make the vegetable, kind of soggy.
Kind of mushy.
Exactly.
So just make sure, whatever method you use, whatever you prefer, just make sure it's cool before you mix it with the other ingredients.
That's right.
So I would say that the star of this salad
should be the parsley.
The parsley.
Absolutely.
So we're not going to use, Dr. Bazzi felt that there was a little bit too little parsley here.
Absolutely.
For all of the bulgur that we have. So we actually used probably about a quarter cup of bulgur in our water that we're soaking it in, and we're probably not going to get it. How long do you usually soak your water or your bulgur? A couple hours?
It depends. You know, if you're doing like the lemon juice or the regular water, then yes, a couple hours as you're preparing, or you can do it overnight, and then that way in the morning it's ready.
Yep.
If you are on a tighter schedule, then you would have to use warm or hot water to get it ready sooner. Basically, just so that you taste it and it's not crunchy.
Right. Yeah. Right. So it's probably not going to be quite as tender today as what we want it to be, but you'll at least get an idea of the ratio of what the traditional tabbouleh would look like. So we have, I would say this is probably 1.5 bunches of parsley maybe that you would buy in the store. And the idea with this is you want it really, really fine, right?
That is correct. The finer, the better.
I'll give you some of it, and I'll chop some too.
Okay.
And you can show me how fine you chop yours.
So typically with the parsley, the recommendation would be to wash it nicely, and if you can, maybe dry it, or if you're preparing the night before, make sure it's nice and clean, and you can just have it air dry on paper towels the night before so that the following day it's dry and clean. Typically, this is like a really scrawny bunch, super tiny. We typically do multiple bunches all at once, because when you make tabbouleh, no one makes just a little bit. You like make a big bowl of it.
Right.
So
like this is for a big family gathering, right?
Yeah,
Or
typically, yeah.
big
I mean, it's
families
always nice to have extra tabbouleh because it's so good. So one of the ways is when it's a bigger bunch, it's easier to hold on to. This one, I'm just worried that I'm going to chop my finger off with it. But, you know. So,
I can do it if you'd like.
What I typically do is like a bigger bunch, and I haven't done this for a long time, but I obviously know how to do it. So I would actually cut right in the middle of the bunch to get a nice cut edge, and then I would hold it like this and really hold it taut. And sometimes you can also put the green onions in with it, kind of all together when it's a big bunch. That way, when you're chopping it, you're chopping the green onions as well.
Okay.
So, and then just really close and just really, really, really fine. Again, when it's a bigger bunch, it's just easier. Some people do it like through the food processor. It just doesn't taste as good. It's definitely easier, and you save time, absolutely. But it's just not as good. And this knife is really good. It's like it's cutting really
They're
nice.
sharp enough today. I should have waited for your instruction, because you're definitely getting that finer than I am.
Yeah, so they basically you can tell if a tabbouleh is made well by how fine it's been chopped. And that's why it's a pain to do, and that's why we just buy it instead of making it, but, you know.
So I'm just running my knife through it.
Oh yeah, that's kind of big, yeah.
I'm not done yet, I'm not done, I'm still going.
And you also don't want to juice it either. So you gotta
I would not make it in a Middle Eastern kitchen.
So, you know, you can see that this, because the bunch is so tiny and my hands and knife are bigger than what it is, it's just taking a little bit longer because it's just smaller. Again, a bigger batch, you do more in a shorter amount of time, so. But basically, you know, I'm not going to continue because it's a lot. But yeah, you want it nice and fine. Now, there are some people that have that knife that has the two handles, kind of like what you were doing, and they would do it this way if you feel like, you know, it's not as fine. These leaves are also super big. So, you know, they're thin, but they're coming a little bit wider than what I would, you know, expect. But it is what it is. It's all good. So, yeah. That's good enough.
Sorry.
You're okay. So then the tomatoes are going to be a very similar thing, where we want them nice and small.
And I chose Roma tomatoes. I don't know what type of tomato you use, but
I definitely recommend, most importantly, is that it is not super ripe, because again, you don't want it to become super juicy when you're doing it, because then it'll make everything soggy. So you want it nice and red, of course.
Romas tend to be a little
Harder,
firmer. Yep, less
exactly.
juicy.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I guess I should have finished that.
And just to speak about the nutrition of parsley, it's so healthy for you. It's rich in vitamins and minerals, antioxidants, anti-inflammatory benefits. And speaking to your specialty, it's also a really good source of folic acid and also iron. I found so lots of good benefits as far as the nutrition goes for parsley. And it's really cheap to buy in the grocery store. You can buy it, pretty much in any grocery store, and it's less than $1 a bunch, which you'd need several bunches to make a big bowl of, really good tabbouleh, but pretty easy herb to find. So definitely has much more of a benefit than just as a garnish, on your plate. So this is a very nutritious salad. So I'm going to start chopping the tomatoes as finely as possible, hopefully trying not to embarrass myself. Look how sharp this knife is. I just want to say it is cutting
pretty sharp, yeah. Agreed.
very well. So my method of cutting tomatoes is, and I may even change it a little bit. These are a little bit juicy. Would you leave the seeds in or take them out?
No, it's fine. You can leave them in. So the way I do them is I, cut it in half, and then I do the tiny, the thin slices, and then go vertically.
Yep.
So I'm setting them up to be diced small.
Kind of similar
I
methods.
feel like if the tomato is larger too, you get, it's the same movements, but you get more done faster. So
Right. Is this about the right size?
yeah, that's okay.
A little smaller?
Yeah, but it's fine.
So small.
Again, when you want to do it at home, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
It's just yummier when it's smaller. It's not like it's wrong. It's just, And basically, the sample that we have for today isn't a good representation of tabbouleh. So, you're not supposed to see the burgle that much. It's not a couscous meal or something like that. You really should see the green and the red. And tomatoes is what makes it really yummy. Red tomatoes and lots of it. That's key. So
primarily
this is
red
kind
and
of
green.
This is kind of
Okay.
the tiny little ones. And again, I just feel like by hand it comes out yummier than doing it. But of course, a lot, there are people that do it in the food processor, and there's nothing wrong with that.
It's it almost reminds me of a similar texture of like a salsa.
Yep, you can absolutely think of it that way, yeah.
But wouldn't necessarily eat it with like tortilla chips.
Yeah.
What would you, usually I see this eaten more as like a salad, but in what ways would you eat it?
It's kind of like, American culture, how they have like potato salad when they go on a picnic or something.
Yep.
We would think of a tabbouleh if you have a barbecue get together, anything like that. It's like, it would be so yummy with like a barbecue picnic, really any type of lunch or dinner. And you can also eat it with a lettuce leaf. So a lot of people, traditionally, after you have the tabbouleh done, you can obviously eat it with a fork and a plate, and you can also put like a couple of tablespoons in a leaf of lettuce and eat it like that. And it's really good that way too. So we typically decorate it with lettuce. Sometimes, like at restaurants, you would see lettuce leaves placed in the bottom of the bowl, and then they put the tabbouleh on top, and then you decorate it with some lettuce on top too, like baby leaves. So.
So tabbouleh is basically you can't chop the vegetables fine enough. if you're making it at home and you're looking for
That's
the
what
secret.
I remember as a kid.
to
Is like
Tabbouleh.
that's what they would tell you. Like
Keep
you gotta
chopping.
They would make the younger folks do it because it's a lot of work. So my mom would make me do it. So
this was your job growing up.
that's right.
And that's why you're so good at it.
I guess. But then when I became an adult, I never do it. So my husband's like, you could try making these sometime. I'm like, no, we'll just buy them. It's like anywhere in Dearborn.
I understand that you have kids now.
That's right.
And how many? You have 4.
I have 4. 2 girls, 2 boys.
and 2 boys. So since this is what you did when you were growing up, perhaps your kids.
I should. I mean, the girls are right there. And,
They're actually in the room right now, and they're shaking their heads. So I'm
they're probably not
going
to be interested in doing it. Yeah, it would be nice for them to learn. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, it's great to carry on. I mean, these are traditional foods, and you know, carrying on those traditions is really important for families, and
absolutely.
And remembering how to make them. So, is that enough tomato, or do you want to?
Yeah,
are we going to keep chopping?
What you have, and
Okay.
I'll start with the lemon.
Okay.
So obviously with the lemon, it's it's to taste. You want to taste the lemon juice in it, and this has seeds again, so you got to use the actual juicer for the lemon would be better. But there we go. Okay. And you want to use as pure of virgin olive oil as possible because that also is what makes a good tabbouleh is to
I have
taste.
no idea what kind of olive oil that is.
That's not. Just so that you know. And the reason I know that is by looking at the color. So real, virgin olive oil, pure, like fresh squeezed, is typically much darker than this color, and you can't really see through it. It's like a thicker, and it smells delicious, and it's a dark. Obviously you get what you get here, but
it's almost really fruity. I find that if I get a really good olive oil, I put it on popcorn once, and the people that were eating it were like, is there something fruity on here?
Yeah.
And I didn't understand why, and then it dawned on me it was the olive oil. It was a good quality olive oil, and it was very fruity.
I mean, the fresh ones, my father-in-law, when he visits, they have olive trees, and they make their own olive oil, and he brings it with them every time he goes visits, and it's just delicious. I mean, you can smell, you can smell it.
Yeah.
And it's much thicker and really, really good. Yeah. All right, I think this is a good...
And olive oil is really good for you, too.
Yeah.
Great for inflammation.
And this is a perfect kind of green to red color. And when you put that too, I mean, you never can get like too much. Obviously, the main is the green and then the red, but this is what it should look like versus what that looked like, So the burghul, when you put it in here, it should you can notice it, but it's not the dominant one. So maybe with this, I would put maybe like a tablespoon of burghul with it. You also have to remember that after it is soaked, it grows in size just a little bit because it absorbs that fluid. So it gets a little bit bigger.
And some of the juice from like the tomatoes and the parsley, once it sits as a salad together,
will make it softer. Yep, and that will make this softer too. So sometimes if the cracked wheat is not 100% ready, and you put it and you mix it, and you're waiting for whatever, like the dinner that you have or whatever, typically that time is enough for it to get soft too.
And now, how long would you say would this last in the refrigerator?
So, if there are leftovers, what I would recommend is to drain any extra juices from the tomato from it so it doesn't become soggy. And, the following day, it's still really good to eat.
Okay.
It's not like it's going to go bad. It's just not as fresh.
And the color sometimes. So we have some mint. That's the other
Yep, that's the other thing that we're going to talk about. So, yes, we can absolutely use the fresh mint. However, a fresh mint is known to become black. When it's chopped and it's mixed. So if you want to avoid anything black looking in the tabbouleh, what I would recommend is the dried mint. And it's much easier. You can just buy it. It's already like little flakes of dried mint, and you just put it. It gives a nice smell to it and things like that. But you can put fresh. You can also decorate it with fresh mint at the very end with lettuce, and it looks really good. But I'll let you do that part.
Right.
This looks really good. You want me to do the green olives? Sorry, not the olives. I keep saying the onions.
Yes.
Let me go ahead and do this.
Sure, yeah. So then the other green ingredient is the green onions, or scallions. And is that what you would traditionally use, the scallions, or would you
Yes.
ever use like an onion?
No.
Always
The green.
the scallions.
Yep, absolutely. And again, if it's a big batch of parsley, what we would do, and typically, they would be nice and thin. These are kind of fat, but you can put it in the batch of parsley, and then as you're chopping it, you're chopping this too. So it's
Yep.
2 in 1.
Yep.
It just makes it faster. But for this one, I'll probably just cut in, because you don't want a big piece and
Yep.
everything else being small.
Well, we're cutting everything else so small.
Exactly.
And the mint is being difficult to get really small.
Exactly.
here.
That's why the dried one is already,
Yep.
it's just so much easier.
Speaking of mint, though, it practically grows like a weed in this area
Exactly.
at this time of year.
Very true.
So if you're planning on planting it in your garden, be careful. It will go everywhere.
Right.
And you will never get rid of it.
Again, with these, I just cut it in half because, again, it's half the time that it takes. So instead of chopping finely for a longer period of time, I just cut it in half and made the batch a little bit bigger, and then it's a shorter distance to cut instead of having it full length.
And generally you use less mint than you do parsley.
That is absolutely correct. It's more like you can think of it as like the cracked wheat,
Yep.
You don't want too much. It's just more for, you can taste it. And
Yep. You don't want it to be too overpowering.
exactly.
Parsley is a star.
That's right. I was surprised, when we had mentioned tabbouleh before and people weren't really sure what that is in this area, which is really interesting because, it's as popular or famous as hummus, I feel like, but,
Yep. Yeah.
it is a small
Well, like I said,
town.
I have gotten a couple of requests because every month we ask what types of dishes people are interested in, and I do often get, I have a couple times at least gotten a request for tabbouleh, so some people know what it is.
That's good.
I actually remember my mom making tabbouleh growing up, and at that point, I didn't care for it. And I think because the parsley is a very strong flavor, and
Yeah.
as a child, sometimes I think those strong flavors really, come through. But now that I've eaten a lot of parsley, it's something that I enjoy a lot more.
And that's exactly why the fine chopping is important, is because parsley is a strong taste. So when it's nice and fine, it doesn't, you can swallow it better, it tastes
Right.
better in your mouth, versus...
And I will guarantee, my mother did not chop like that.
So,
We joke that she's the chunker. She doesn't
Oh.
chop, she chunks.
yeah, no, that's more for fattoush or some other types of salads, but... All right.
Call that enough mint.
Yep, that's plenty.
And do we have the olive oil in there yet?
Nope, not yet.
Nope. And
So for the olive oil, this is open.
okay, yeah.
So just,
Kind of eyeball it a little bit.
sure, yeah. You want it to again, the good olive oil, you want it to look shiny. So you don't want it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You don't want it dry because, again, the
Right.
parsley can be very dry without
Right.
the good olive oil,
Yep.
and then it just doesn't taste good.
Okay. So
And
you
then the last
definitely
part
want
is
enough.
just going to be the burgle.
Yeah, so we have it soaking in water, and then I have hopefully a fine enough
Yeah,
where you
it'll
can just
do. Yeah.
scoop it out. There is a mesh sieve over there if that would.
Oh, yeah, that'll be better. And I'm not going to use all of this. It's too much. And, this, you can taste this and make sure it's, not crunchy, but I think this is enough here.
So just very little. It's
Yes.
just almost like a seasoning.
Let's see what this looks. Yeah, you can think of it as that. This looks really good. And we have to put salt. And it probably needs a little bit more lemon juice. I didn't taste it, but again, because of the the texture of the parsley. So you can see how it's like the main color is green.
Yep.
It's like Christmas colors, green and red.
Be a good Christmas salad.
Yeah, totally. Something different. Right. That's right there. You know, and if you want to put a little bit more, that's fine. Yeah, this looks pretty typical. And then, you know, if you want to put to taste more olive oil, more lemon juice, salt, you can. But this is what it would
I have
look
a
like.
friend whose family is from Lebanon, and she said when they make hummus, they, you know, it's a lot of tasting. And I spent an
Yes.
afternoon with her in the kitchen,
That is true.
and we spent like a half an hour tasting.
And it's
all
like,
the,
nope, not right.
we need more of this, more of that.
That's true.
And that's
yeah.
probably very similar to what you would
Absolutely.
do with
Same
this.
with the baba ganoush, yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
You're gonna taste it and adjust to your
Absolutely.
family's preferences.
Yeah, that's true.
So we do have some plates down here.
Yeah,
if
let's
we
put it on a plate. It'll look so nice, nice and colorful. And we don't have lettuce, but that's okay. Decorating it with lettuce would be nice too.
Could put some mint on it.
Yeah, absolutely. But you can see how different this looks than, you know, the other.
Right.
And the, you know, this, everything looks really good here. Excellent. We can
Down the other end.
put the baba ganoush if you want. I can do that. Okay. The most important thing when you're
There's
eating
our
the
tabbouleh.
tabbouleh is make sure you don't have parsley on your teeth. So when you eat it and then you smile, it could be very embarrassing. So you know, typically we eat tabbouleh, we always ask, you know, someone that's with us, is there anything on my teeth? Because it's bound to like stick
So
to your
you're
teeth.
going to be eating it with good friends.
Yes, because it will stick. So, but it's super worth it.
That looks awesome.
Yeah. Now we have a little bit of, you know, black stuff, but overall it looks pretty good. There's a little bit bigger.
And then you drizzle then with,
Yep.
I'll let you,
Same as we do with the hummus, and you can put as little or as not as you would like.
and that's how you would serve it.
That's right.
at
And then
home.
you can decorate it with some tomatoes. You can either make like a flower of the tomato and put it, or just diced tomatoes and put here, some parsley in the middle, just for decorating, and it will look beautiful. I
Yeah,
overdid it here, but
it looks great. So this is our baba ganoush. So, very nice. Well, thank you so much, Dr.
Yeah,
Bazzi,
it
for
was
joining me
fun.
today
Yeah,
and
my
telling us all
pleasure.
your secrets.
yeah, my pleasure.
So I will definitely do a better job at making tabbouleh and baba ganoush now that I
That's
know all
okay.
your tricks.
Yeah.
So
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah, and thank you to our audience members for joining us today.
thank you.
And does anybody have any questions for me or our pro?
How much dried mint would you have put in that?
Well, it depends on how much. I would say maybe, you know, a tablespoon would be reasonable. Yeah. And then you can taste it. If you like a little bit more, you may. It depends how much parsley and how big. But for this quantity, probably a tablespoon would be good. Yeah.
Is there a difference between spearmint and peppermint as far as what we use in cooking?
I would say yes.
Yes. I mean, there are a lot of different varieties of mints. If you go to like a greenhouse, you'll find like pineapple mint and chocolate mint and, you know, all sorts of different cultivars. But, you know, I don't know that, you know, just the general mint for this type of recipe would probably be recommended. And if you use a different type of mint, it's going to give it
That's
a
right.
slightly different flavor.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you just flat leaf parsley then?
Do you use curly or flat leaf most often?
Flat leaf. Yeah, it's less coarse. Yeah.
And when you were going to do the eggplant, you were going to cut it in half and then roast it?
Good question. No, not all the way in half. So we would remove this top here, and you would just kind of slit maybe go half the depth, not all the way through. So, some people kind of do the fork and kind of do you just have to, some way so that the heat can go on the inside. So just like from top to bottom, halfway the depth, and just put it in the oven on the tray.
She said she did not use any olive oil on the tray.
That's correct,
So
nothing.
I saw some recipes
as
that
is.
says you put oil on the tray, and your recipe probably says that, but you're our expert, you don't have to.
Yeah, we're just roasting it, and then you're gonna peel the, the skin here, so you don't need that.
Good questions, guys. Anything else?
Thank you.